First contact shock. The Zephyran exploratory vessel Eternal Serenity glided silently through the void, its crystalline form capturing and refracting starlight in dazzling patterns. Captain Vale stood on the observation deck, all four of his arms folded in contemplation as he watched his crew perform their regular survey duties. The Zephyrans had explored this sector for 3 centuries without incident, cataloging stellar phenomena and occasionally discovering new forms of microbial life. Their civilization had achieved interstellar travel 5,000 years ago through cooperation, unified purpose, and the gentle guidance of their evolutionary path toward harmony. That tranquility shattered in an instant. "Captain, unknown vessel approaching at high velocity," announced First Observer Miri, her luminescent skin pulsing with alarm patterns. "Configuration matches nothing in our database." Vale moved swiftly to the main sensor display. Distance and trajectory. 8 light minutes and closing rapidly. It appears to be on an intercept course. The captain's outer eyes blinked in surprise while his inner eyes remained fixed on the readings. "Show me." The holographic display shimmered to life, revealing an object that defied Zephyran aesthetic sensibilities and engineering philosophy. The vessel was angular, asymmetrical, and covered with protruding structures that disrupted any sense of balance or flow. Most disturbing were the obvious weapon emplacements dotting its hull like malignant growths, and the scaring that spoke of previous violent encounters. "What manner of species build such a craft?" whispered Liaison Officer Thale, the diplomat's voice thick with apprehension. "One that expects to fight," Vale replied, "and has fought before." For the Zephyrans, this was an almost incomprehensible concept. Their species had evolved beyond conflict before they had even developed written language. The notion that a spacefaring civilization might still engage in warfare seemed biologically impossible. Advanced intelligence and violent tendencies were, in their understanding, mutually exclusive evolutionary paths. "They're accelerating," Miri reported, her voice tight. "And they're scanning us deeply. These are military-grade scans penetrating all our systems." Vale's mind raced. Their vessel carried no weapons. No Zephyran ship did. They had defensive shields designed to protect against cosmic radiation and micrometeoroids, but nothing that could withstand deliberate attack. "Open communications on all frequencies and languages in our database," he ordered. For several tense moments, there was only silence. Then the central display flickered, and a figure appeared that sent ripples of shock through the command deck. The being stood upright on 2 limbs instead of the expected 6 of most sentient species. It had only 2 eyes, set in a flat face with a protruding nasal structure and a single mouth. Most disturbing was its rigid posture, a stance that seemed perpetually prepared for action. "This is Commander Katerina Volkov of the Earth Confederation vessel Indomitable," the creature announced, its words translated through the ship's linguistic systems. "You have entered a designated security perimeter. Identify yourselves and state your purpose immediately." The bluntness of the demand violated every protocol of interspecies communication the Zephyrans had established over millennia. First contact rituals typically involve days of careful ceremonial exchanges, symbolic gestures, and gradual trust building. Vale spread his 4 arms in the traditional greeting of peace. "I am Captain Vale of the Zephyran exploratory vessel Eternal Serenity. We are on a mission of scientific discovery and mean no intrusion or harm." The human's expression remained unchanged. "Your vessel contains sophisticated sensor arrays capable of mapping our defensive positions. Power down all active scanning systems immediately and prepare to be boarded for inspection." "Boarded," gasped Thale. "Captain, this is unprecedented." But the human commander was deadly serious, and as Vale watched the warships approach on the tactical display, he began to understand that they had encountered something utterly outside their experience. "We will comply," he said finally, signaling the crew to power down their systems. "But I must register that forced boarding of a peaceful vessel violates all established interstellar protocols." Commander Volkov's expression flickered with what might have been amusement. "Where we come from, Captain, protocols are written by the survivors." 3 hours later, Vale stood rigidly as armored humans moved efficiently through his ship. They carried weapons openly, devices clearly designed to harm, and spoke in clipped, coded language to each other. Their leader, a human designated Lieutenant Chen, interfaced devices with the Zephyran databases, downloading vast quantities of information. "Your cooperation is noted," Chen said, not looking up from his work. "It makes things easier for everyone." "May I ask why this is necessary?" Vale ventured. "We have shared our mission parameters and scientific goals." Chen paused, studying the alien captain with calculating eyes. "History has taught humanity to verify, not trust. Your technology exceeds ours in certain areas, particularly your FTL drive and sensor capabilities. That makes you either a potential threat or a potential asset." "We have never considered technology in such terms," Vale replied carefully. "That's exactly why we're having this conversation," Chen said, disconnecting his device. "Your species achieved space travel through cooperation. Ours achieved it through competition and conflict. Different evolutionary paths." "And which path has proven more successful?" Vale asked. Chen's smile did not reach his eyes. "The jury's still out on that one, Captain. But I can tell you this, in our history, the peaceful civilizations without defenses don't tend to write the epilogues. When the humans finally departed, taking copies of the Zephyran database with them, they left behind a message for the Zephyran High Council. As the Eternal Serenity limped home on reduced power, Vale replayed Commander Volkov's final communication repeatedly, trying to understand its implications. To the leadership of the Zephyran Confederation, consider this formal notice. The territories bordering the Orion Arm are under human protection and influence. We have observed your expansion for the past decade. While we recognize your scientific mission, be advised that any further incursions into these regions will require prior authorization. We are prepared to discuss mutual cooperation or enforce separation as circumstances dictate." 3 weeks later, the High Council of the Zephyran Confederation gathered in emergency session. The vast chamber with its soaring crystal arches held representatives from all 73 member worlds, now sitting in stunned silence as they watched the footage from the Eternal Serenity's encounter. Elder Cora, head of the council, spoke first after the recording ended. "We have since learned more about these humans. They evolved on a single world they call Earth, a planet of extreme environmental variation. Unlike us, they developed not as a communal species, but as competing tribes that fought each other for resources and territory for most of their history." Displays around the chamber showed images of human history, primitive battles with crude weapons, then increasingly sophisticated wars culminating in global conflicts that had nearly destroyed their planet. They achieved spaceflight not through unified scientific exploration, Cora continued gravely, but through competing nation-states attempting to gain military advantage over each other. Their first satellites were weapons platforms. Their first interplanetary ships were built to claim territory before rivals could. Chief Scientist Velerin stepped forward. "The most concerning aspect is not their technology, though it is formidable. It's their mindset. Our preliminary analysis of their communication patterns, ship design, even their physiology. Everything indicates a species perpetually prepared for conflict." "Are you suggesting they might attack us?" someone called from the assembly. "I'm suggesting," Velerin replied softly, "that they already consider themselves at war with the universe. They have simply been waiting to meet the enemy." As the council debated long into the night, far away aboard the Indomitable, Commander Volkov was making her own report. The inevitable collision. First contact proceeded according to protocols. "General," Commander Volkov reported, standing at rigid attention before the holographic projection of General Marcus Thorne. His weathered face, creased by decades of military service, revealed little emotion. "And your assessment of the Zephyrans?" he asked. "Technologically advanced, but tactically naive." No weapons systems detected on any of their vessels. Their shielding is sophisticated but designed for environmental protection, not combat. They reacted to our boarding procedures with confusion rather than resistance. Confusion? The general's eyebrow raised slightly. I don't believe they have a concept of territorial sovereignty as we understand it, sir. They treat space as a commons for exploration. The idea that someone might claim a sector and defend it seems genuinely foreign to their thinking. General Thorne leaned forward, his image flickering slightly. Your assessment of the threat level. Volkov paused, considering carefully. Minimal as combatants. But their technology in certain areas exceeds ours significantly. Their FTL system operates on principles our scientists are still struggling to comprehend. And their sensor technology. We need to study it further. Potential as allies. Unknown, sir. Their society appears to function on consensus and cooperation rather than hierarchy. I'm not certain they could adapt to our command structures or military necessities. Thorne nodded slowly. Very well. Maintain surveillance at a distance. Intelligence will analyze the data package you've acquired. If their technology is as valuable as you suggest, the diplomatic courts will need to be involved. Sir, Volkov hesitated. With respect, the Zephyrins aren't like other species we've encountered. They're genuinely peaceful, not strategically pacifist, but evolutionarily non-aggressive. Our standard approach might not. Your concerns are noted, Commander. Thorne interrupted. But remember what happened with the Arcturians. Their peaceful overtures nearly cost us the Proxima colonies. His expression hardened. Humanity has fought too hard for its place among the stars to risk everything on trust. As the transmission ended, Volkov turned to look out at the stars. Humanity had clawed its way to the cosmos through violence and determination. They had survived plagues, world wars, climate collapse, and near extinction by asteroids. Nothing had stopped them. And now, standing at the threshold of galactic civilization, they had discovered something perhaps more terrifying than any enemy, a galaxy filled with species unprepared for the harsh realities that had forged humanity. For the first time, Volkov wondered if the real danger wasn't to humanity but from it. Meanwhile, aboard the scientific vessel Luminous Thought, Dr. Elena Chandra worked feverishly in her private laboratory. As one of Earth's leading xenobiologists, she had been granted access to the Zephyran data for research purposes. What she discovered had left her sleepless for days. The transmission is ready, Doctor, her assistant whispered, nervously glancing at the sealed door. But we don't have much time before the security protocols detect the unauthorized communication. Chandra nodded grimly. This can't wait. What they're planning goes against everything first contact protocols were designed to prevent. The screen flickered to life, revealing Captain Vale, whose 4 eyes widened in surprise at seeing the human face outside official channels. This is Dr. Elena Chandra of the Earth Scientific Cooperative, she said urgently. I'm transmitting on a secure channel the military doesn't know about. Not all humans share the Confederation's approach to first contact. Some of us believe in peaceful exchange. Vale's expression registered confusion and hope. We are listening, Dr. Chandra. The Confederation doesn't speak for all of humanity. We're a diverse species with many perspectives. She leaned closer to the camera. But I must warn you. Elements within our military see your technology as a strategic asset to be acquired, not shared. They've been looking for advanced species like yours for decades, and they won't stop with just marking territory. What do they want from us? Vale asked. Your technology, your knowledge. Chandra's voice dropped lower. We've spent centuries fighting each other. Now that we've unified enough to reach deep space, old habits haven't died. They've just found new targets. The transmission suddenly became distorted. I don't have much time. They're tracking unauthorized communications. Just know there are humans who want peace. Find us before. The screen went blank. Weeks later, a Zephyran stealth observer ship monitored the human outpost, designated Sentinel-7 from a safe distance. After Dr. Chandra's warning, the High Council had authorized unprecedented measures. Their first surveillance mission. Inside the command center of Sentinel-7, Commander Volkov stood before a disciplinary panel, her posture rigid. "You disobeyed direct orders," General Thorne stated coldly. The directive was clear. The Zephyrin vessel was to be seized for full technological assessment, not merely scanned and released. With respect, General, forced seizure would have been a strategic error. Volkov replied evenly. "We now have their database and technical specifications. More importantly, we've delivered our message of strength without forcing them into a defensive posture." "Since when do you concern yourself with psychological impact, Commander?" Thorne's eyes narrowed. "I selected you for this mission because of your directness and adherence to protocols." Volkov remained impassive. The Zephyrins aren't like other species we've encountered. Taking their ship would teach them the wrong lesson, that they need weapons rather than dialogue. That serves neither our immediate needs nor our long-term security. "That wasn't your decision to make," Thorne snapped, tapping his console display. "Intelligence is already analyzing their technology. Their FTL system alone could advance our capabilities by decades. And their sensor array." He shook his head. "We need more than just data. We need working examples. So we're planning to steal their technology," Volkov said flatly. "We're planning to ensure humanity's survival in a hostile universe," Thorne corrected sharply. "Or have you forgotten what we learned from the Centauri incident? How many colony ships did we lose before we understood that not everything out there wants to shake hands?" Before Volkov could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Lieutenant Chen burst into the room. "Sir, we've detected a Zephyrin vessel at the edge of our sensor range. It appears to be using some kind of stealth technology we haven't seen before." Thorne's eyes hardened. "Engage intercept protocols. I want that ship captured intact." "Wait," Volkov interjected. "This isn't their normal behavior. Something's changed." "Yes," Thorne said coldly. "They're spying on us. Still think they're so peaceful." The confrontation that followed happened with startling speed. The human interceptors launched, weapons charged. The Zephyrin vessel, detecting the approaching threat, attempted to flee but found its escape routes blocked by gravitational mines secretly deployed days earlier. As the human ships closed in, something unexpected happened. The Zephyrin vessel's crystalline hull began to pulse with energy patterns of increasing complexity and speed. "What are they doing?" Thorne demanded. "Unknown, sir," replied the sensor officer. "But they're broadcasting on all frequencies. It appears to be information. Massive amounts of information." On the bridge of the Zephyrin vessel, silent observer, Captain Liran worked frantically. "Broadcast everything. Our entire cultural database, our philosophy, our history, everything." "The transmission is being jammed," his communications officer reported desperately. "Switch to quantum entanglement channels," Liran ordered. "They cannot block those." As the human ships prepared to fire, Commander Volkov suddenly realized what was happening. Wait, they're not attacking. They're talking. But it was too late. The first shots from the human interceptors struck the Zephyrin vessel. To everyone's surprise, instead of exploding, the crystalline ship absorbed the energy and transformed. Its structure began to reorganize, becoming more angular, more like the human vessels facing it. Weapon-like protrusions emerged from its formerly smooth surface. "What in hell's name?" Thorne whispered. And then, in a blinding flash of light, the Zephyrin ship vanished, leaving behind only a lingering transmission that played across every screen in the human fleet. Captain Liran's alien features filled the displays. "We have observed. We have learned. For 5,000 years, we evolved through cooperation, believing it the only path to the stars. You have shown us another way. We adapt. We survive. We return." The transmission ended, leaving the human command center in stunned silence. "What just happened?" Thorne demanded. Volkov stepped forward, her face grave. I believe we've just witnessed the true nature of the Zephyrins, General. They aren't peaceful because they can't fight. They're peaceful because they chose not to. Explain. Foreign-ordered. Their entire biology is based on adaptation. Their civilization focuses on learning, understanding, and incorporating new knowledge. Volkov's voice was barely a whisper now. We just taught them warfare. And they learn very, very quickly. As if to confirm her words, reports began flooding in from across human space. Zephyran ships were appearing everywhere, transformed, watching, learning, not attacking, not yet, but studying every aspect of human military operations with the same thoroughness they had once applied to stellar phenomena. In that moment, humanity realized the truth. They had encountered a species that had chosen peace for millennia, not from weakness, but from evolved wisdom. And humanity, with its scars and weapons and fears, had just taught this ancient, adaptable civilization the art of war. The Zephyrans had seen humanity's deadliest weapon, conflict itself, and in learning from it, ensured that it was indeed too late. Not for them, but perhaps for the humans who had failed to recognize that some lessons, once taught, cannot be untaught. In the void between stars, a new kind of vessel took shape, one that combined the adaptability and advanced technology of the Zephyrans with the strategic thinking and defensive capabilities humanity had unwittingly shared. The peaceful explorers were gone, replaced by something new, something that had learned humanity's most terrible lesson. And they were coming back to teach one of their own.